Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Daily Packers Post, where we provide daily in-depth coverage of your Green Bay Packers every Monday through Friday. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and check out our website at thepackerspost.com. Today, we're going to discuss 5 veteran wide receivers who could fill in for the Packers at wide receiver 1. Now, we talked about Josh Jacobs and what he said during Super Bowl week about the Packers receiving core needing an experienced veteran. And I think he's right, all things considered. I think there is just the need for a go-to guy who's experienced, who could probably help the younger guys develop, even if he's just leading by example. And you watch on a game in, game out basis what this guy can do. Now, all the players on this list are players who have been rumored to be available either via trade or free agency. These are guys where we're going to discuss the pros and cons of them fitting in with the Green Bay Packers if they were to be added this year. Now, we already know there's no Christian Watson probably for at least the first half of the 2025 season. That only reinforces the need for a bona fide number one guy. Now, these 5 players are in no particular order. So, if I say this person is number 5, that doesn't mean that it's the 5th best option for the Packers. Just keep that in mind. Coming in at number 5 is Seattle Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf. He's a big target at 6'4", 235 pounds. Heck, that's almost tight end size. And, he's a little too big for cornerbacks to cover and a little too fast for safety. So he creates those mismatches. And easily, you could see Metcalf filling in the role that Christian Watson tried to fill last season, where he's the downfield threat who, by just being on the field, opens up opportunities for his teammates because opposing defenses need to account for Metcalf. Now, here's a guy who has never gained less than 900 yards receiving in any of his 6 NFL seasons. He's gone over 1,000 3 times, and twice he's caught more than 10 touchdown passes. He's only 27 years old. Now, we're still not sure if the Seahawks are going to make Metcalf available. It would be logical. The Seahawks seem to be stuck in that, good enough to fight for a playoff berth, but not good enough to contend for a Super Bowl kind of a spot. It would probably cost the Packers a first-round pick or maybe a lesser pick if Jaire Alexander is involved, because the Seahawks could use help at corner. So those are the possibilities. But Metcalf, for his size, his speed, his age, he would certainly make a solid addition to the Green Bay Packers receiving core. Coming in at number 4 on this list is Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams. Kupp, he would be more of a gamble, I think, than DK Metcalf. Maybe the biggest gamble of anyone on this list. He's 32 years old, or he will be at least in June. He is certainly starting to be on the back 9 of his career. In 2021, he had an unbelievable season, 145 receptions, 1,947 yards, and 16 touchdowns. But since then, in the last 3 seasons, he hasn't played more than 12 games a year. When he's on the field, he's productive, but he's not on the field quite enough. Now, Kupp is familiar with the Packers offense because the Rams do run a similar system. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. And I think, he's the type of receiver that the Packers young group could certainly learn a lot from. And the good thing about Kupp, I don't think it would cost as much to bring him here because of his age, because of his recent injury history. Probably would cost them maybe a day 2 draft pick, maybe, something in that range. But, he still has a couple of years left on his contract. So you are taking at least that little bit of risk, and the cap hit is high. If it pays off, it probably wouldn't cost you much as far as what you would give up in a trade, and you can get a lot of production out of Cooper Kupp. But if he gets hurt again, you could end up paying a lot of money on the cap for not a lot of production, which is something the Packers have to be concerned about. So it's low risk, potentially high reward, but the risk of getting a guy and him not being available is also certainly there. Coming in at number 3, a Packers nemesis who they would probably love to add, and that's Deebo Samuel. Ian Rappaport at ESPN said earlier this past week that the 49ers may explore trading Samuel. Now, again, we've heard these kind of rumors before. The alleged compensation would be a second-round pick, although the 49ers may initially say they want a first. Samuel is entering the final year of his current contract, so you wouldn't be committed to him long-term. If things don't work out, then, it's 1 year and done. So that is always a positive. And then, here's the deal. Samuel, very familiar with Matt LaFleur's offense, mainly because the 49ers, again, run a very similar scheme. He caught 51 passes last year for 670 yards and 3 touchdowns. He just turned 29 last month. So still probably has a couple of good years left before he really starts to, slow down a little bit. And look, Deebo Samuel, very good at running the football, jet sweeps, ends arounds, even just, shuffle passes. Either way, I think he'd be a great fit in LaFleur's offense. And you're not talking about a long-term commitment. Now, if things go well, you could always extend him, but there are pros and cons, obviously, to Samuel as well. Coming in at number 2 on our list of potential wide receiver ones who could help the Packers veterans, T. Higgins. Now, the difference for T. Higgins, he is an unrestricted free agent. You don't have to give up a draft pick. You don't have to give up any players. But the flip side of that, he's going to cost you a lot of money, probably somewhere between $25 and $30 million a year. Now, the Packers do have a lot of cap space, and they can create roughly another 50 to 55 million more just by restructuring contracts that exist. Again, you do have to pay those bills down the line, but certainly there'd be enough cap space to make a move. But if you're giving Higgins $30 million a year, it's going to limit the other big moves that you can make. And there are a lot of guys up for extension, so take that into consideration. Higgins, 73 catches for 911 yards and 10 touchdowns, and that was in just 12 games. He's 6'4", 220. He's got size and speed, and at 26, he is still in the prime of his career. But here's the thing, besides the cap space, that maybe raises some concern about T. Higgins. He's never been the number 1 receiver in the NFL during his career. Jamar Chase has kind of been the wide receiver 1 in Cincinnati. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Higgins is equal to the task of being the guy, and whether or not it's worth paying him all that money only to find out that, he's a great number 2, but really can't get it done as a number 1. So we'll see whether or not Brian Gutekunst goes all in and tries to ink T. Higgins. And then the last player on our list, coming in at number 1 for sentimental reasons, former Packers wide receiver Davante Adams. Adams should be available via trade. Aaron Rodgers, it was announced on Sunday, not coming back to the New York Jets. So the odds of Davante Adams also not returning to the Jets just went up. He's already played for the Packers. He's played under Matt LaFleur, so he probably knows the Packers offense better than anybody on this list. We all know Davante's work ethic, the way he runs routes, and I think he would be really a good mentor for some of these younger wide receivers. But Adams is 32. He's not in his prime anymore. Now, speed was never the key to his game, it was always, disguising his routes off the snap of the ball and his just ability to make people kind of, doubt where he's going and then getting that half step on them. He had 85 catches for 1,063 yards and 8 touchdowns in just 14 games. And he didn't have an elite quarterback on either the Raiders or the Jets last year. It probably would cost you a day 2 pick from the Jets to get Davante Adams back. He's talked in the media, hinted, hey, maybe I could come back to Green Bay. The question is whether or not the Packers want him back and whether it makes sense to pay his salary and see where he goes. So those are our 5. If there's anybody else that you feel belongs on this list, feel free to mention it in the comments and obviously comment on who your first choice would be. I know a lot of people may say Davante Adams because of his history with the Packers, but, is that history enough to make him the best choice under the circumstances? Love to hear what you have to say. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Check out our website at thepackerspost.com. I am Gil Martin. I am here bringing you in-depth daily coverage of your Green Bay Packers every day, Monday through Friday. Have a great day, everyone. And of course, go Pack Go.